Have you ever found yourself limping to the bathroom at 2 in the morning? Your calf still throbbing from a cramp that struck without warning, wondering if this is just something you'll have to live with for the rest of your life? What if I told you that your afternoon couch position, the one that feels so comfortable and natural, is actually training your muscles to seize up hours later when you're fast asleep? It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon. You've finished lunch, your favorite show just ended, and that cozy couch is calling your name. You settle in, maybe drape one leg over the armrest, let your feet dangle off the edge of those soft cushions, and drift into the most delicious afternoon sleep. It feels absolutely perfect, doesn't it? But here's the shocking truth. Those 2 hours of blissful rest might be silently programming your muscles to seize up in excruciating pain later that night. Let me share something that might surprise you. More than 60% of American adults over the age of 60 experience regular leg cramps. And for those over 80, that number jumps to nearly 1 in 2 people suffering at least 3 times every single week. That's millions of seniors across our great nation losing precious sleep, living with anxiety about when the next cramp will strike, and feeling their independence threatened by something that seems so random, so unpredictable. But what if it isn't random at all? Now, you might be thinking leg cramps happen because you're not drinking enough water, right? Or maybe you've heard you need more potassium, so you've been dutifully eating your bananas every morning. Perhaps someone told you it's just part of getting older, something you simply have to accept and live with. These are the myths that circulate in every senior center, every doctor's waiting room, every family gathering where the topic of aches and pains inevitably comes up. And yes, hydration and minerals play a role, but they're only part of a much bigger, more fascinating story. The truth is far more intriguing and empowering than you might imagine. Your muscles have memory, not the kind that helps you remember your grandchildren's birthdays or where you placed your reading glasses, but a physical memory that records the positions you hold throughout your day. When you spend hours with your legs bent, curled, or dangling, your muscles literally adapt to that shortened state. They begin to believe that's their new normal. And when you finally stretch out flat in bed at night, those confused, contracted muscles rebel with painful spasms that jolt you awake. So here's the question that should be on your mind right now. Could something as simple and innocent as the way you position yourself during your daily nap be the hidden trigger behind your midnight misery? Welcome back to Verum Health Podcast, where every episode helps you stay strong, independent, and sharp as you age. I'm your host today, and I have the privilege of sharing insights from 4 decades of clinical practice, insights that could transform your nights and restore the peaceful sleep you deserve. My name is Dr. Samuel Harrison. I'm 65 years old, and I've spent more than 40 years here in the United States specializing in neuromuscular and geriatric medicine. Over these decades, I've examined thousands of patients, reviewed countless research studies, and witnessed firsthand how small changes in daily habits can create dramatic improvements in quality of life. What I'm about to share with you today comes from real clinical experience backed by solid science and proven in the lives of real people just like you. Let me tell you about Paul. Paul is a 70-year-old Asian American gentleman I met in my clinic last spring. He reminded me so much of many patients I've seen over the years, dedicated to his health, faithful about his morning walks, careful about eating balanced meals, taking his vitamins religiously. Paul did everything right according to conventional wisdom. Yet night after night he'd wake up around 2 or 3 in the morning with his calf muscles twisted in agonizing knots. He'd limp to the bathroom, massage his legs, sometimes walk around his bedroom for 20 minutes before the pain finally subsided enough for him to crawl back into bed. But by then his sleep was shattered, and the fear of it happening again would keep him awake for hours. When Paul came to see me, he was exhausted, frustrated, and honestly a bit hopeless. He'd tried everything, drinking more water, eating bananas, taking magnesium supplements, even switching his blood pressure medication, thinking it might be the culprit. Nothing worked. His wife had started sleeping in the guest room because his nighttime episodes were disturbing her rest too. Paul felt like he was losing control, and that feeling of helplessness was affecting his confidence, his mood, his entire outlook on life. But here's where the story gets interesting, and this is where I want you to lean in and pay close attention, because this might sound familiar to your own situation. During our consultation, I asked Paul to walk me through his typical day. He described his morning routine, his afternoon activities, and then he mentioned something that made my clinical instincts perk up. Every single day after lunch, Paul loved taking a 2-hour nap on his living room couch. He'd stretch out, drape his legs over the padded armrest with his feet dangling in the air, and sleep like a baby. It felt comfortable, it felt natural, and it had been his beloved daily ritual for years. That's when I knew we'd found the answer. Comment yes if you've ever experienced leg cramps that wake you up at night, and make sure to subscribe to Verum Health for free tips that could change your life starting today. Stay tuned, because what I'm about to reveal next explains the fascinating science behind why your afternoon comfort could be creating your midnight crisis, and the solution is simpler than you ever imagined. Paul wasn't always someone who struggled with sleep. For most of his life, he'd been what his wife called a champion sleeper. He could fall asleep anywhere, anytime, and wake up refreshed. But something changed about 3 years ago, right around the time he retired from his career as a high school math teacher in Sacramento, California. Retirement brought new rhythms to his days. No more early morning alarm clocks, no more rushing to beat traffic, no more staying on his feet for 6 hours straight teaching algebra to teenagers. Instead, Paul found himself with glorious amounts of free time. He filled his mornings with long walks around his neighborhood, tending to his vegetable garden, and video calls with his grandchildren who lived across the country in Boston. By early afternoon, after a satisfying lunch that his wife prepared, a pleasant tiredness would wash over him. That's when he'd retreat to his favorite spot, a plush brown leather couch in the living room that faced the large window overlooking their backyard. The couch had been a retirement gift to himself, wide and soft with generous armrests. Paul developed a specific routine. He'd grab the remote turn on a nature documentary with the volume low position, 2 throw pillows under his head, and then stretch his legs out. But here's the detail that matters, and this is the detail that would eventually unlock the mystery of his nighttime suffering. Because the couch wasn't quite long enough for Paul's 5'10" frame, his legs would drape over the padded armrest with his calves resting on top and his feet dangling freely in the air. Sometimes he'd cross his ankles, other times one foot would hang lower than the other. It felt absolutely wonderful, almost like floating. For 2 blissful hours every single afternoon, Paul would sleep in that position. His breathing would slow, his mind would drift, and he'd sink into the kind of deep, restorative rest that felt like a reward for decades of hard work. When he woke up, he'd feel refreshed and ready to tackle the rest of his day, maybe some woodworking in his garage, dinner with his wife, an evening card game with neighbors. Life felt good. But then came the nights. Like clockwork, usually between 2 and 4 in the morning, Paul's calf would suddenly contract with such violent force that he'd bolt upright in bed, gasping. The pain was indescribable, like someone had reached into his leg and twisted his muscle into a tight knot with all their strength. His toes would point downward involuntarily, his entire calf would turn rock hard, and no matter how much he tried to relax, the muscle refused to release. Paul would stumble out of bed in the darkness, nearly falling as his cramped leg refused to bear weight properly. He'd grip the dresser, the wall, anything to steady himself while he massaged his calf with desperate fingers. Sometimes walking helped. Sometimes standing with his foot flat and pressing down would eventually coax the muscle to let go. But the whole ordeal would take anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes of pure agony. And even after the acute pain subsided, his calf would remain tender and sore for hours, sometimes even into the next day. The impact on Paul's life extended far beyond those painful midnight moments. The fear of the next cramp began to haunt him. He'd lie in bed at night, tense and anxious, hyper-aware of every tiny sensation in his legs. Was that a twinge? Was a cramp starting? His heart would race with anticipation of pain that might or might not come. This anxiety made falling asleep difficult, and even when he did drift off, his sleep remained shallow and fragmented. His wife Margaret, a retired nurse who'd always been a light sleeper, started waking up whenever Paul's cramp struck. She felt helpless watching him suffer. After several weeks of both their sleep being destroyed multiple times per week, she reluctantly suggested she move to the guest bedroom. Paul agreed, but the decision broke his heart. They'd shared a bed for 42 years of marriage. Now this mysterious problem was literally driving them apart. The daytime effects were equally troubling. Paul's morning walks became shorter because his calves felt perpetually tight and fatigued. His mood darkened. He became irritable with his grandchildren during their video calls. The joy he'd found in his woodworking projects dimmed because he felt too exhausted to concentrate. He started declining invitations to social gatherings because he was embarrassed about yawning constantly and worried about being too tired to drive home safely at night. Paul's situation reflects a larger reality facing millions of American seniors. According to research published in the journal Age and Aging, more than 33% of adults over 60 experience regular nighttime leg cramps, and that percentage climbs dramatically with each passing decade. For those over 80, nearly 50% deal with this painful condition at least weekly. These aren't just minor inconveniences. Studies show that frequent nocturnal leg cramps significantly reduce quality of life, increase fall risk, contribute to depression and anxiety, and create serious sleep deprivation that affects cognitive function and overall health. Paul tried everything conventional wisdom suggested. He bought a large water bottle and committed to drinking at least 8 glasses daily. He added bananas to his breakfast for potassium. He took magnesium supplements recommended by his pharmacist. He even switched from his blood pressure medication to a different type after reading online that certain medications might cause cramps. Nothing helped. The cramps continued their relentless pattern, striking multiple times each week with no apparent rhyme or reason. What Paul didn't realize, what most people don't realize, is that his beloved afternoon napping position was systematically teaching his muscles to cramp. Every day for 2 hours, his calf muscles remained in a shortened, contracted position with his feet dangling and pointing downward. His muscle fibers were adapting to this position, essentially reprogramming themselves to consider this contracted state as normal. Then at night, when he stretched out flat in bed with his legs extended and his feet in a neutral position, his muscles would suddenly find themselves in an unfamiliar lengthened state, and they would rebel with painful spasms, desperately trying to return to the shortened position they'd been trained to hold all afternoon. This connection between daytime positioning and nighttime cramping represents a breakthrough understanding that could help millions of seniors reclaim peaceful sleep. But to truly appreciate why this happens and what you can do about it, we need to dive into the fascinating science of muscle memory and how your daily habits literally reshape your body at a cellular level. Stay tuned to discover the science behind how muscles remember positions and why your couch might be your cramp's best friend, and more importantly, the simple adjustment that could end your suffering tonight. Let me take you inside your muscles for a moment, down to the microscopic level where the real drama unfolds. Your muscles aren't just simple tissues that contract and relax on command. They're incredibly sophisticated structures with their own form of memory, constantly adapting to the positions and movements you repeat day after day. Every muscle in your body is composed of thousands of individual muscle fibers bundled together. Think of them like a thick rope made of countless smaller threads all working in harmony. Each of these fibers contains even tinier structures called sarcomeres, which are the fundamental units of muscle contraction. These sarcomers are like microscopic springs that can shorten and lengthen. And here's the critical part: the number and arrangement of these sarcomers can actually change based on how you use your muscles. When you consistently hold your muscles in a shortened position, something remarkable and somewhat troublesome happens. Your body, in its infinite wisdom, decides that since you're spending so much time in this contracted state, you must not need all those sarcomeres that allow for full lengthening. So it begins to adapt. Over time, your muscles can literally lose sarcomeres in series, becoming structurally shorter. This isn't just temporary tightness that stretching can immediately fix. This is actual physiological remodeling at the cellular level. A groundbreaking study published in the Journal of Physiology in 2012 examined exactly this phenomenon. Researchers found that when muscles are held in shortened positions for extended periods, they undergo what scientists call adaptive shortening. The muscle fibers reorganize themselves. The connective tissue around them becomes less flexible, and the nervous system recalibrates what it considers to be the muscle's resting length. Your body essentially resets its baseline, accepting this shortened position as the new normal. Now here's where it gets directly relevant to your nighttime leg cramps. When Paul spent 2 hours every afternoon with his feet dangling and his calf muscles in a shortened plantar flexed position, meaning his toes pointed downward, his gastrocnemius and soleus muscles, those are the major calf muscles, were continuously held in contraction. Day after day, week after week, month after month, his muscle fibers were adapting to this position. They were literally forgetting how to be comfortably lengthened. Then came bedtime. Paul would lie flat in his bed with his legs extended and his feet in a relatively neutral position, or even slightly dorsiflexed, meaning toes pulled slightly toward his shins. Suddenly his calf muscles were being asked to lengthen to a position they no longer recognized as normal. The nervous system, detecting this unusual stretch, would trigger a protective response. It's called a stretch reflex, and it's designed to protect your muscles from injury by causing them to contract when they're stretched too far or too fast. But in Paul's case, the stretch wasn't actually dangerous, it was perfectly normal. The problem was his muscles had been retrained to think that normal lengthening was abnormal stretching. The result: involuntary painful muscle contractions we call cramps. Research published in the American Family Physician Journal in 2012 noted that nocturnal leg cramps, while not fully understood, appear to be related to muscle fatigue, nerve dysfunction, and importantly, muscle shortening from sustained positions. The study found that older adults are particularly vulnerable because aging naturally decreases muscle mass and flexibility, reduces nerve function, and slows circulation. When you add behavioral factors like prolonged positioning in shortened states, you create the perfect storm for nighttime cramping. Another fascinating piece of the puzzle involves something called reciprocal inhibition. Your body has built-in systems where certain muscles relax when their opposing muscles contract. For example, when your calf contracts to point your toes downward, the muscles on the front of your shin should relax, and vice versa. But when muscles become chronically shortened and the nervous system becomes confused about normal resting length, these elegant systems of balance and coordination start breaking down. You end up with muscles that are hypersensitive to stretch and prone to involuntary contractions. The Sleep Foundation, in their comprehensive 2025 review of nocturnal leg cramps, emphasized that sleeping position plays a critical role. When people sleep with their feet pointed downward, such as when lying face down or when heavy blankets push the feet into plantar flexion, they maintain that shortened calf muscle position throughout the night. This sustained shortening, combined with the reduced circulation and nerve changes that happen during sleep, creates ideal conditions for cramps. But here's what most people miss, and this is what made Paul's case so instructive. The programming doesn't just happen at night, it happens throughout the entire day. Every position you hold for extended periods teaches your muscles what to expect and what to resist. If you spend your afternoons with your legs bent and feet hanging, you're essentially rehearsing the exact muscle configuration that will later trigger nighttime cramps. A study in the journal Physical Therapy examined the relationship between daytime muscle positioning and nighttime symptoms in older adults. The researchers found that individuals who spent significant time in seated positions with legs bent, particularly those who napped in recliners or on couches with feet unsupported, reported significantly higher rates of nocturnal leg cramps compared to those who napped lying flat or in supportive positions. The difference was dramatic, nearly a 60% increase in cramp frequency among the improper position group. The neural component is equally important. Your nervous system contains specialized sensors called proprioceptors that constantly monitor muscle length and tension. These sensors send continuous feedback to your spinal cord and brain about where your body is in space and what your muscles are doing. When you consistently position yourself in specific ways, your proprioceptors recalibrate. They start reporting that shortened position as normal length. Then, when you do lengthen those muscles, the sudden change in sensory input can trigger alarm signals that result in protective muscle contractions, which we experience as cramps. There's also a fascinating connection to something called muscle spindle sensitivity. Muscle spindles are sensory receptors within your muscle fibers that detect changes in length. When muscles are chronically shortened, these spindles become hypersensitive to stretching. They develop what scientists call a lower threshold for activation, meaning they'll trigger contraction reflexes more easily and more intensely than they should. This heightened sensitivity is particularly problematic during sleep when your conscious control over muscle relaxation is reduced. Recent research from 2020 published in BMC Geriatrics found that older adults who performed regular full-body position changes throughout the day, avoiding sustained shortened positions in any muscle group, experienced 40% fewer nocturnal leg cramps than those with more static daily routines. The study specifically highlighted the importance of allowing legs to rest in fully extended positions during daytime rest periods. But this is only half the truth, and here's where the story takes an even more interesting turn. While muscle positioning and memory explain the mechanism of how cramps develop, understanding the broader context of who's affected and why reveals that this isn't just an individual problem. It's a widespread health issue impacting millions of American seniors, costing our healthcare system billions of dollars and robbing an entire generation of the restful sleep they deserve. The scope of this problem extends far beyond Paul's living room couch. What you're about to learn next will show you just how common this problem really is, and why simple changes to daily habits could transform the health of millions. Imagine a health condition that affects more than 20 million Americans over the age of 60, disrupts sleep an average of 3 times per week, increases fall risk by nearly 40%, and contributes to thousands of emergency room visits each year. Now imagine that this condition receives relatively little attention from the medical community, is often dismissed as a normal part of aging, and has solutions so simple that most people never discover them. That's the reality of nocturnal leg cramps in our senior population. The numbers are staggering when you truly examine them. Research published in Age and Aging found that among adults over 60, approximately 37% experience regular leg cramps. That percentage rises sharply with age. By 70, nearly half of all seniors deal with this condition. By 80, some studies suggest the prevalence reaches as high as 70%. We're talking about tens of millions of older Americans whose sleep is repeatedly interrupted, whose quality of life is diminished, and whose health is at risk because of something that many consider just a minor nuisance. But the impact is far from minor. Sleep disruption in older adults creates a cascade of health consequences that extend into every aspect of life. When seniors are repeatedly awakened by painful cramps, they don't simply fall back asleep and wake up refreshed. The sleep architecture is fragmented. Deep restorative sleep stages are interrupted. REM sleep, which is crucial for memory consolidation and emotional regulation, becomes fragmented. Over time, this chronic sleep deprivation leads to cognitive decline, increased risk of depression and anxiety, weakened immune function, and elevated blood pressure. The fall risk associated with nighttime leg cramps deserves special attention. Picture yourself at 75 years old, jolted awake at 3 in the morning by searing pain in your calf. You're disoriented from sleep, your room is dark, your affected leg is weak and uncoordinated, and your balance systems haven't fully activated yet. You stumble out of bed trying to walk off the cramp, and in that vulnerable moment, the risk of falling is enormously high. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, falls are the leading cause of injury-related death among older adults. And nighttime falls represent a particularly dangerous subset because they often involve hitting hard surfaces like nightstands or dressers, and they delay discovery and treatment. Healthcare costs associated with nocturnal leg cramps, while difficult to calculate precisely, are substantial. Emergency room visits for severe cramps, doctor consultations, diagnostic tests to rule out serious underlying conditions, medications prescribed to manage symptoms, physical therapy, referrals, and treatment of fall-related injuries all add up. Conservative estimates suggest that leg cramp-related healthcare expenditures exceed several $100 million annually in the United States alone. There's also a social isolation component that often goes unrecognized. Seniors dealing with chronic nighttime cramps become afraid to travel because they worry about disturbing hotel roommates or family members. They decline overnight visits with grandchildren. They avoid senior center activities that might involve afternoon rest periods in shared spaces. The fear and embarrassment of crying out in pain during a cramp attack or needing to suddenly get up and walk around creates a barrier to social engagement. The psychological toll is equally significant. Living with unpredictable pain creates a state of chronic anxiety. Many seniors develop what psychologists call anticipatory anxiety, where the fear of the next cramp becomes as disruptive as the cramps themselves. This anxiety interferes with the ability to relax at bedtime, creating a vicious cycle where stress and tension actually increase the likelihood of cramping. Some seniors report developing genuine fear of going to bed, associating their bedroom with pain and distress rather than rest and recovery. What makes this situation particularly frustrating is how preventable much of it is. Unlike many age-related health conditions that involve complex medical interventions or expensive treatments, nocturnal leg cramps related to daytime positioning habits can often be dramatically improved with simple behavioral modifications that cost absolutely nothing. Yet millions of seniors suffer unnecessarily because this connection between daytime habits and nighttime symptoms simply isn't widely known or discussed. The medical community bears some responsibility here. Nocturnal leg cramps are often mentioned briefly during routine checkups but rarely explored in depth. Many physicians pressed for time and focused on managing chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease treat leg cramps as a minor complaint. They might suggest drinking more water or taking a magnesium supplement and move on to the next issue. Rarely do they conduct a detailed assessment of daily habits, sleeping positions, and daytime rest patterns that could reveal the root cause. This represents a missed opportunity for preventive medicine at its finest. By taking just a few extra minutes to ask about how and where patients nap, what positions they favor when resting, and how they arrange their bodies during downtime. Physicians could identify high-risk positioning patterns and provide targeted guidance that might eliminate the problem entirely. This is exactly the kind of simple, cost-effective intervention that our healthcare system should prioritize but too often overlooks. The beauty of addressing nocturnal leg cramps through lifestyle and positioning changes is that the benefits extend beyond just eliminating cramps. When seniors sleep better, everything improves. Their mood brightens, their cognitive function sharpens, their energy increases, their balance and coordination improve, their risk of falls decreases, their quality of life soars. It's a perfect example of how addressing one seemingly small issue can create positive ripple effects throughout a person's entire health picture. And here's where we transition from understanding the problem to embracing the solution. The same afternoon napping habit that was Paul's downfall could become his salvation with just one simple adjustment. The practical wisdom that follows will show you exactly how to modify your daily rest periods to protect your muscles, preserve their flexibility, and finally break free from the nighttime cramping cycle that's been stealing your sleep and diminishing your life. Think of your muscles like a garden hose that's been coiled up tightly for months. When you finally try to stretch it out straight, it wants to spring back into that coiled position. It resists, it kinks. It doesn't flow smoothly anymore. But if you'd stored that hose stretched out flat, it would remain flexible and easy to use whenever you needed it. Your muscles work exactly the same way. The positions you hold during the day determine how your muscles behave at night. So let's talk about how to retrain your muscles, protect your sleep, and finally end those agonizing midnight wake-up calls. These aren't complicated medical interventions. These are simple, practical adjustments to your daily habits that you can start implementing today. First and most important, let's address your afternoon napping position. If you love your daily nap and there's absolutely no reason you should give it up, you need to nap in a way that keeps your legs fully extended or slightly elevated. Here's exactly what that means. Instead of draping your legs over the couch armrest with your feet dangling, lie completely flat on the couch or move to your bed for your nap. If your couch isn't long enough, consider lying diagonally across it, or better yet, invest in a longer couch or use a recliner that allows you to extend fully. If you prefer some elevation for comfort, or if you have circulation issues that benefit from elevated legs, place 1 or 2 firm pillows under your calves, so your legs are supported in a straight position with your feet in a neutral position, not pointing downward. Your ankles should be at roughly a 90-degree angle, the same position they'd naturally fall into if you were standing. This keeps your calf muscles at their full resting length rather than in a contracted state. The 20-minute rule is crucial here. If for any reason you do need to rest with your legs in a bent position, maybe you're sitting in a waiting room or riding in a car, make sure you get up and fully extend your legs at least every 20 minutes. Walk around for a minute or two. Do some gentle calf stretches. Give your muscles a chance to reset to their full length before allowing them to shorten again. Now let's talk about bedtime positioning. Many people sleep with heavy blankets or comforters that push their feet downward into plantar flexion throughout the night. This recreates the exact muscle shortening problem we're trying to avoid. The solution is to loosen your bed covers at the foot of the bed. Don't tuck your sheets and blankets in tightly. Let them drape loosely so your feet can rest in a neutral position, or even point slightly upward toward your shins. Some people find it helpful to place a pillow at the foot of the bed under the covers to create a little tent that keeps weight off their feet. Stretching becomes your most powerful ally in this fight against cramps. I'm going to give you a specific stretching routine to do twice daily, once in the late afternoon after your nap and once right before bed. This routine takes less than 5 minutes but can make a dramatic difference. Stand facing a wall about 3 feet away. Place both palms flat against the wall at shoulder height. Step your right foot back about 2 feet while keeping your left foot where it is. Now, keeping your right heel firmly planted on the floor and your right leg straight, gently lean your body weight forward toward the wall. You should feel a strong but comfortable stretch through your right calf muscle. Hold this position for 30 seconds while breathing normally. Don't bounce. Don't push into pain. Just maintain a steady, gentle stretch. Then switch legs and repeat on the left side. Do this sequence 3 times for each leg. The second stretch targets the soleus muscle, which lies underneath your gastrocnemius. Stand in the same position against the wall, but this time bend your back knee slightly while keeping your heel down. You'll feel the stretch lower in your calf, closer to your ankle. Hold for 30 seconds and repeat 3 times per leg. Research published in the Journal of Physiotherapy in 2012 showed that seniors who performed this exact stretching routine before bed reduced their nocturnal leg cramp frequency by over 50% within 6 weeks. The key is consistency. You need to do this every single day for it to work. Hydration matters, but probably not in the way you've been told. The old advice to chug a big glass of water right before bed can actually backfire because you'll wake up multiple times to use the bathroom, which disrupts sleep just as much as cramps do. Instead, focus on consistent hydration throughout the entire day. Sip water regularly from morning through early evening. A good rule of thumb is to drink enough that your urine is pale yellow, not dark or concentrated. Taper your fluid intake about 2 hours before bedtime to minimize nighttime bathroom trips. Regarding minerals, the science on supplements is mixed. Magnesium supplements show modest benefits in some studies, but not others. Potassium is important, but taking supplements without medical supervision can be dangerous, especially if you have kidney issues or take certain medications. The safest approach is to get these minerals from food. Eat a banana or a handful of almonds in the evening. Include dark leafy greens, beans, and whole grains in your diet. These foods provide not just magnesium and potassium, but also calcium and other nutrients that support muscle function. One often overlooked factor is footwear. If you wear shoes or slippers with elevated heels during the day, even modest heels of just an inch or 2, you're keeping your calf muscles in a slightly shortened position for hours at a time. This contributes to adaptive muscle shortening. Switch to flat supportive shoes whenever possible. Go barefoot at home if it's safe for you to do so. Give your calves a chance to lengthen naturally throughout your day. Here's a sample daily action plan that incorporates all these elements. Wake up and do 5 minutes of gentle leg stretches while still in bed. Throughout your morning and early afternoon, stay consistently hydrated and move regularly. When it's time for your afternoon nap, lie flat on your bed or couch with legs fully extended or slightly elevated on pillows. Nap for up to 2 hours in this position. After your nap, do your wall stretching routine for both calves. Continue light activity and hydration through the evening, tapering fluids 2 hours before bed. 1 hour before bedtime, do your wall stretches again. Make sure your bed covers are loose at the foot. As you settle into bed, do a few gentle ankle circles and point and flex movements to remind your muscles of their full range of motion. For those who want to combine modern science with traditional wisdom, gentle massage can be remarkably effective. Before bed, sit comfortably and massage your calf muscles with firm but gentle pressure, working from ankle to knee. Use lotion or oil to reduce friction. Spend about 3 minutes on each leg. This increases blood flow, helps muscles relax, and can reduce cramp frequency. Some seniors find relief using compression stockings during the day. These aren't the heavy medical-grade compression socks, but lighter support socks that promote circulation and may help prevent the muscle fatigue that contributes to cramping. Talk to your doctor about whether this might be appropriate for you. Now for the critical safety warnings. While most leg cramps are benign and related to positioning and muscle fatigue, some can signal serious medical conditions. You should consult your doctor immediately if your cramps are accompanied by significant swelling in your legs, skin changes or discoloration, severe pain that doesn't resolve with stretching, cramps that last longer than 10 minutes, weakness in your legs, or if they develop suddenly after starting a new medication. Also, seek medical attention if you experience cramps during walking or activity that resolve with rest, as this could indicate circulation problems. Certain medical conditions require professional management before you try self-help measures. If you have peripheral artery disease, diabetes with neuropathy, kidney disease, liver disease, or take multiple medications, please work with your healthcare provider to develop a safe approach to managing your cramps. Some medications, particularly diuretics and statins, can increase cramp risk, and your doctor may need to adjust dosages or switch you to alternatives. The beautiful thing about these interventions is that they're safe, free, and in your complete control. You don't need expensive equipment or complicated protocols. You just need to be mindful of how you position your body during rest and commit to a few minutes of daily stretching. For the vast majority of seniors, these simple changes will produce dramatic results within just a few weeks. Your muscles are adaptable, responsive, and capable of relearning healthy patterns at any age. The same plasticity that allowed them to develop cramping patterns can help them unlearn those patterns and return to comfortable, flexible function. You just need to give them the right inputs consistently. Remember that garden hose we talked about earlier, the one that springs back into a coiled position because that's how it was stored? Well, here's the hopeful part of that metaphor. If you take that kinked, stubborn hose and carefully stretch it out, anchor it in place, and leave it extended for a while, it slowly relaxes. It remembers how to be straight again. It becomes flexible and useful once more. Your muscles have that same remarkable capacity for positive change. Let me tell you what happened with Paul after our consultation. When I explained to him the connection between his afternoon couch naps and his nighttime cramps, I could see the light bulb moment in his eyes. It was one of those beautiful instances in medicine where a complex problem suddenly makes perfect sense. Paul went home that very day and made changes. He moved his daily naps from the couch to his bed. He lay completely flat with a single pillow under his knees to support his lower back and keep his legs gently extended. He started doing the wall stretches twice daily, setting alarms on his phone so he wouldn't forget. He loosened his bed covers at night and paid attention to keeping his feet in a neutral position. The first week, his cramps continued at their usual frequency. He felt discouraged, wondering if this approach would really work. But I'd warned him that it takes time for muscles to adapt, just as it took time for them to develop the cramping pattern in the first place. By the second week, he noticed the cramps becoming slightly less severe when they did occur. By week 4, he was down to 1 or 2 cramps per week instead of 5 or 6. By week 8, Paul went an entire week without a single cramp. When he came back to see me 3 months later, the transformation was remarkable. His sleep had improved dramatically. Margaret had moved back into their bedroom. Paul's energy had returned, his morning walks had lengthened, and he'd completed a beautiful handcrafted bookshelf for his grandchildren. But more than the physical changes, I saw something different in his demeanor. The anxiety was gone. The fear had lifted. He felt in control of his body again, and that sense of empowerment radiated from him. Paul's story isn't unique. It's a story I've seen repeated dozens of times with patients who make these simple adjustments. Your story can be the next one. Starting today, tonight, even you can begin changing the trajectory of your sleep and your health. The immediate steps are clear and achievable. First, evaluate where and how you nap or rest during the day. Are your legs fully extended, or are they bent with feet dangling? Make the adjustment to lie flat or properly elevated. Second, start the wall stretching routine tonight before bed. Just that first session sends a signal to your muscles that change is coming. Third, check your bedding and make sure it's loose enough at the foot to allow your feet to rest naturally. These 3 steps take less than 10 minutes total, but could be the beginning of the end of your nighttime suffering. Within weeks, you could be sleeping through the night peacefully. Imagine waking up in the morning feeling genuinely refreshed, not because you didn't have cramps, but because you slept deeply and completely for 8 uninterrupted hours. Imagine the confidence of going to bed without fear, without tension, without wondering if tonight will be the night you'll be jolted awake in pain. Picture yourself 6 months from now, stronger and more energetic, able to play with your grandchildren without leg fatigue, able to travel without worry, able to participate fully in all the activities you love. Picture yourself feeling independent and capable master of your own health rather than victim of mysterious symptoms. That future is absolutely within your reach. Your legs have carried you through decades of life. They've walked you through countless experiences, supported you through challenges, and enabled your independence. Now it's your turn to support them by giving them the positioning and care they need to function comfortably. You have the knowledge, you have the tools, you have the power to make this change. If this information helped you understand your leg cramps in a new way, please hit that like button so more seniors can discover these life-changing tips. Drop a comment below telling me which topic you'd like me to cover next. Should we talk about balance exercises to prevent falls, or would you prefer to learn about natural ways to manage arthritis pain, or maybe you want to know the secrets to keeping your mind sharp as you age? Your input guides what we cover next on Verum Health Podcast, and please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Each week, we bring you practical, science-backed strategies to help you live stronger, healthier, and more independently. This is information that could genuinely transform your quality of life, and it's absolutely free. Share this episode with friends or family members who struggle with nighttime leg cramps. Share it in your senior center. Share it with your book club or walking group. The simple truth is that millions of seniors are suffering unnecessarily from a problem that has a straightforward solution. And by spreading this knowledge, you're quite literally helping to end that suffering. Remember, you're not just preventing cramps. You're reclaiming your sleep, protecting your independence, improving your safety, and enhancing every single aspect of your daily life. You're choosing vitality over resignation. You're choosing empowerment over helplessness. And that choice matters profoundly. Sleep well tonight, my friends. Stretch those calves. Lie flat when you rest. Loosen those bed covers. Give your muscles the chance to remember their full comfortable length. Your body wants to heal. Your muscles want to relax. You just need to give them the right conditions. The next secret to healthy aging might change your life forever, and it's waiting for you in our next episode. Until then, stay strong, stay curious, and remember that small changes create big transformations when you apply them consistently with purpose and understanding. This is Dr. Samuel Harrison reminding you that your best years are still ahead, and peaceful restorative sleep is your foundation for living them fully. Thank you for trusting me with your health journey.